Yep.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Paradyme Podcast. We hope you're having a great week, better than you were yesterday and the day before that, huh? So before we get started, we want to urge you to subscribe, hit the like button, comment down below, and follow us on all our social media platforms. All the information you'll need will be down in the description box below. So we're going to start off with a disclaimer. We here at Paradyme do not claim to have all the answers. We simply desire to be better each day. We make videos in the hope that other people that desire the same can use some of the tools we've discovered along our journey. So the information used for today's discussion is coming from the book Beyond Order by Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, and the chapter we are discussing in this week's episode is titled, Do Not Allow Yourself to Become Resentful, Deceitful, or Arrogant. And this is Rule 11 of 12, so we're almost at the end.
Yep.
Bittersweet. So one thing to get across right in the beginning is that everyone is capable of becoming resentful, deceitful, and arrogant. So how do we combat that? So JBP kind of gives us some descriptions and definitions of what these things look like. So he defines, he says, you are resentful because of the absolute unknown and its terrors, because nature conspires against you, because you are a victim of the tyrannical element of culture, and because of the malevolence of yourself and other individuals. You can become deceitful and arrogant through covert or overt means, such as lies of commission and lies of omission. So lies of commissions are things we do knowing full well they are wrong. Omissions is things we let slide. We know we should intervene, but we do not. And he says you become arrogant by being stuck in your way, believing you know everything that you already need to know, and you miss opportunities in spite of losing a little bit of stability. You end up choosing stability over choosing new opportunities. So These are kind of the definitions we've kind of gathered throughout the chapter. Is there anything you guys want to mention as those parts came up to you, like resentfulness or arrogance?
On the spot right now, do you think some people read this and they're like, oh, I could never be that resentful or deceitful or arrogant, or they kind of dismiss the possibility of being that? You know what I mean?
I looked at it like that myself. You know, when I was reading it, I was like, I typically don't lies of commissions. I don't do it forthrightly, right? But I can see myself letting things slide.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's interesting. The title says, do not allow yourself to become resentful and deceitful. So if you are, you're in a sense inviting that in.
Right.
You're kind of giving yourself permission to be resentful, deceitful, or arrogant.
Yeah, I mean, he talks about that in the chapter 2, right? Where he says, the more you do these things, the less you can depend on your moral monitor, kind of.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, if from letting things slide, you can become resentful towards yourself, like, damn, I shouldn't have done that, right?
And for this one in particular, like, omissions, it's not just about, like, your meter of believing how trustworthy. It's let things slide that we know aren't good. Mm-hmm. Let's say stealing. Like we can say in our culture now, that because we're all letting it slide, things have become the opposite of like great. I'm not saying that right. I'm not saying that right. And then like, what if that kid's got 4 other peers that all also don't get in trouble for doing the same thing? You know?
Yeah.
Then
Right.
all of a sudden, stealing from people's cars isn't a big deal, you know? Because like the cops are like, they're just kids or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's an example.
It's like that saying, if your friend Timmy jumps off of the edge, are you gonna jump too? You know what I mean? Like, just because everybody else does it, that doesn't give you the right to do it too.
Yeah, don't trust kids named Timmy, bro.
And I think that's the saving
kidding.
of like the righteous mind. Like when our parents are trying to teach us that, like, it's like just because there's a lot of wrong going on around you doesn't mean you can't make the right choice. Like you know what the right choice is.
That's a good one.
You know what I mean?
And this one in particular, because it talks about tyrant, it's just like you shouldn't let stuff slide. Like what if your boss is like openly disrespectful to maybe not you but other people in the office? Like, is that cool? Like, I don't know, you know?
Yeah. When's the next person gonna be disrespected?
Yeah, breaking the pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
All right. So one big takeaway we took from this chapter was understanding that life is a story, and we must understand the characters of human existence and the importance of recognizing them in our lives. So JBP names multiple characters of the human existence. They're all kind of archetypes that people fit into, or not, maybe not even people, but just all of our existence as a whole, right? So the first is the dragon of chaos, representative of the unknown. This is why I say it doesn't have to be a person. It can be opportunities. If you're going to choose to jump into a new opportunity, in order to get to the treasure, you have to fight the dragon, right? So it's different for it's different for everybody. So JBP says, this is the symbolic representation of potential, of possibility for better and for worse. There is always something sinister and dangerous in the dark, and it is the job of the well-prepared individual to confront it and take the treasure it archetypally guards. The fundamental representation of reality as an eternal treasure house guarded by an eternal predator is therefore a perfect representation of the way you are wired to react to the world at the most fundamental depths of your being. So is there anywhere in your guys' lives that you recognize a dragon of chaos? Or in other people's lives, maybe?
Yeah. For me, the dragon of chaos would be doing this new jiu-jitsu class.
Okay.
Because like the way I say that is because like he says, like, with every dragon there's gold.
Right.
And going to class makes me feel uncomfortable and I'm nervous to show up. But once I go, like, I like it and it's really hard and difficult. But like the goal is I'm pushing myself physically, mentally, and I'm learning a new skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, I mean, dragons all different sizes, you know? Well, what size dragon do you think that is? That the Goblet of Fire dragon?
No.
Spyro?
I don't know. Like it's just something that makes me feel uncomfortable. So it doesn't have to be like a big thing. But like for me, I would say this is the biggest thing in my life right now that makes me feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
And I go and clock in like 2 to 3 times a week, and it makes me feel good after.
Yeah.
It makes me resentful or ashamed or guilty if I don't go for whatever reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you actively pursued that?
Yes.
Or jiu-jitsu is something that just found you?
Honestly, I watched this movie with Tom Hardy called like The Warrior or something.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I want to fucking beat Tom Hardy so bad.
Dude, he's dope.
He's like 5'4", isn't he?
Shout out to Tom Hardy.
Who cares, dog? He's just a fucking beast in
Fucking
the movie.
BJJ.
His traps, bro. He's like,
Yeah,
Dude,
fight anybody.
literally, I watched that movie and I was like, I want to beat Tom Hardy. So I like that day I was like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like where do I
There
sign
you
up?
go. Sweet.
Yeah.
So you actively pursued a dragon that made you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Nice. How about you guys?
Currently, I don't have. I would think the closest thing to, because I think my life is sort of more in chaos than like looking for unknown, uncomfortable like growth, like areas that I know exist, but I'm not looking to grow in them yet. But like I would say one right now is like just the uncertainty with like DoorDash, like DoorDashing full time.
Okay.
Like that keeps me on edge all the time with like having that as like full income. And I always think like what if, like where's that dragon gonna burst in the door and be like, you've been thinking about it, you know I was here, but you still, you know what I mean? So that's why like I want to like fulfill my I want to fulfill that desire of like accomplishing landing somewhere in like cybersecurity and getting like that going. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But what eats at me is letting that entrepreneur side of me like go. You know what I mean? Letting that slow down, but at the same time, like it's like I have to make sacrifices. You know what I mean? To get to that, to find that the goals that I'm looking for. But I think that's one dragon that like I know is there, but it's like I don't know when it will like. If it, or maybe it never will come out. Maybe it never will. Like maybe I just created that imaginary like.
I mean, it's good you're looking for it though.
You know what I mean? Yeah, because I know it's like DoorDash is like it's a great steady income, but it's like there's no stability. There's nothing like that was like, oh nope, we just stopped fucking giving you orders. You know what I mean? Like, what am I gonna do? Go to fucking HR?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, dude. I mean. You just like DoorDash, you use it as an engine to get to where you really want to go.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
that's good.
That's just for mine. I don't know.
Cool. Anything you want to mention? You want to move on?
Yeah, I would say Dragon of Chaos for me is, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is just communication. Maybe telling or just having positive communication or owning the way that I speak to people without thinking too much or having my mind set on like what are they going to say or how are they going to take it or like the repercussions of that. It's just chaotic. I think my head goes there a lot. Like I kind of operate sometimes like, oh, how are they going to speak? Like I got to like maybe cater how I'm going to deliver this message sometimes. So I think that's something
Why do you think you do that?
I think I was used to being like the nice guy for a long time, maybe like just catering. I built up that habit, you know what I mean, with my past and who I was around, who I spent time with. And so now I'm finding more gold, let's say, just communicating in a way that I take that into consideration, but I'm letting people know that this is how I feel. And, you know, setting guidelines like Jay had mentioned to me earlier this week. I'm selling you these things, even if they may be a little bit awkward or uncomfortable, or maybe I just feel that way. And then I think the guideline or having would you say like
it's a framework to have a conversation.
Yeah, framework to conversations. I don't know, feels better to me. I think there's gold in there. You're practicing and building the habit of telling people what you have to say and not putting so much weight on like how they're gonna react.
Yeah, it's just kind of limiting. You're like, look, I don't mean it like that, you know. You gotta voice something. Yeah,
that's the first thing that came to mind.
Communication skills is definitely a dragon. People gotta.
I mean, like we faced the drag. Like, would you say we faced the dragon climbing Mount Whitney?
Oh yeah, that was definitely.
It was for pure chaos, right?
That was
I think
pure chaos.
Ever since I got back from that trip, though, I'm finding out like that was like a really really tough thing for us to do. Had a lot of fun doing it, but now I'm like, why do I get so scared of like simple things like this? You know, like,
dude, you're like, I just survived the blizzard.
Yeah, I just survived the blizzy, bro. You know, so it's a good thing because that trip is really giving me clarity on like, why do I even feel so scared to have this conversation, or why do I feel so scared to maybe talk to my employer some way, or bring something to the table and have things open for discussion and not letting things slide.
Yeah, it's cool. It kind of almost adds an aspect to the cookie jar example from David Goggins.
Yeah.
It was like, the first cookie you get might be a Chips Ahoy, but the next one you get could be like crumble or something. You know what I mean? Like you can get different levels of cookies to reach into that jar. You know?
Yeah, dude.
Go ahead, John.
Because you talked about like after we did the Whitney trip, you're like, how come all these little things? Like, why am I scared of these little things? In the subsection resentment, one of the things I thought kind of goes along with this. He goes, the voluntary confrontation dispelled some of their fear. This was not because things around them became less dangerous, but because the people facing the danger became braver. It's unbelievable how strong and courageous people can become. It is miraculous what sort of load people can bear when they take it on voluntarily. And I think like you learned from the Mount Whitney trip, if you voluntarily take on like physical, mental, you can handle way more than you thought previously. You know? And it's not now these things back at like your work life, they have become less dangerous like socially, but you're like, why am I scared of those things? You know?
Yeah.
And like, now you just got to practice it more and be like, because like the more you do it, the easier it gets, and like the braver you are with it, you know.
I think he calls it exposure therapy.
Yeah. That's what he calls it. Yep. All right. Cool. Well, the next section he talks about nature, and he kind of describes it as creation versus destruction. This represents the potential around you. So he gives the example of the evil queen. He labels her the goddess of destruction and death, and she represents the negative elements of the natural world. So I kind of think of this section as a spectrum, right? We have the evil queen and we have the fairy godmother, the benevolent monarch, he calls her, a friend, a family member, a fictional character, or a part of your own psyche that is motivated by knowing that your mistreatment, swearing to take any opportunity that comes your way to escape your misfortunate circumstances. Leave them behind and balance your life appropriately. So there's the spectrum of chaos and order. There's a spectrum of creation and destruction. And I kind of, that helped me wrap my head around these upcoming sections because everybody will fit on somewhere in this spectrum at different points in their life, you know? And so I think it's interesting that the way he breaks it down is, you know, there's a woman that he sees that was raised with the evil queen. And so grew up with a lack of love.
Right.
And so that person need to go find the fairy godmother, the benevolent monarch. But the person that spent their whole life with the benevolent monarch needed to go and pursue some evil.
Yeah.
In order to kind of break this mold of like everything's happy-go-lucky. I thought that was so cool because there's like it's telling you that there's a line for everybody and you have to go find it. It's not about getting all the way to the happy side or excuse me, the positive side. It's about the balance between them. Yeah. I thought that was so cool.
And not just that, people are so quick to like put their current problems on their past
experiences.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, sure. But have you tried to go find balance in that? Like both those stories you just talked about was like two young people raised in opposite extremes.
Yeah.
How the story conclude by their own self going out and looking for balance. Right. And that's when the story concludes. So like you can either be resentful, which is like be a victim, or you can do the opposite and try to work towards something.
Yeah.
Well, that technically, how JBP describes it, when there you have a helicopter parent that protects their child from the evil world. Because it's almost like I hear it, like when I hear the word evil, at least in this context of when he's explaining it, like it's very paradoxical. Like evil isn't just some like monster under a bed. It could be the person that is like the helicopter parent. Like technically, like years go on, that evil came from misguided nurturing.
And it's like the closest thing to you.
And that's and it's also the closest thing to evil, because it's like you raise something that like is now scared to tackle anything in life, and now they become the evil that you created because you protected them so much.
Nah, I see what you're saying. I had to hear you all the way through.
You know what I mean? And so that's like when I think of this word evil, just in this context, it's very paradoxical. It's like you think of evil of being like this monster, but it also can be a good thing, like overprotective, like
you wouldn't associate typically like a protecting mother as being like evil just out loud, you know what I mean? Protecting.
And there's an experience, or like there's a passing of time that has to happen for the nature or the nurturing of the protective mother to even come into existence. Like there has to be a passage of time, but the instant present moment evil is the evil monster. Like you can see
trying to protect it.
Yeah.
Damn, Devin's spinning facts right now.
Like I always hear that like evil shit. Like I feel like a lot of people don't really we misinterpret evil sometimes. But I think we understand what we're saying, but like
long term.
I
like he uses the example of Sleeping Beauty, for example, the evil queen. There's Little Mermaid, Snow White, 101 Dalmatians, Cinderella, Tangled, Alice in Wonderland, and they all kind of go along this same thread where it's like, let's say Sleeping Beauty. She was hidden away from all. She wasn't invited to the birth, right? Maleficent.
Yeah.
Right. So she wasn't invited to the birthday party or hey, we had our baby, let's say it's a gender reveal or whatever.
Yeah.
But they don't invite the evil queen, right? And because of that, she puts a curse on the kid. Hey, at 16, she's going to touch the end of the thing and go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so because they refused to invite the evil queen, it came back and bit later in life, right? And so
It was gonna bite them anyways. Yeah.
right, it was gonna bite him anyway. So he says actively invite the evil queen into your life and learn how to work with her, right? Let me find this page, but real quick.
Well, I think that's a great example of like that's why I think we love underdog stories. Is like people that have like really harsh realities. It's better to listen to those stories than to listen to people that are like handed everything that like
And still find
get
it.
to the same point, but like it's just a better story.
Yeah. All right, so he says here, invite the evil queen into your child's life. If you fail to do so, your children will grow up weak and in need of protection, and the evil queen is going to make herself known, no matter what steps you take to stop her. So if you shelter young people, you destroy them. So I was just on that side of the spectrum. Hearing you say it is like you can't register it in the moment, but later on, those built-up effects, you know. So yeah, I thought that was just a really cool subsection, and the spectrum idea kind of helped me understand that.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
Because I think these are really in-depth topics. I'm always curious to see what the readers or whoever's listening to these can pick apart for themselves just off the videos alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But read the book. Go read some books.
Yeah, check it out.
Read some books. This was actually the longest chapter, so.
Yeah.
This one's
So
a beast.
this next subsection he calls culture, security, and tyranny. And this is representative of the structures in our life, both social and psychological. So on both sides of those spectrums, on both sides of the spectrum, we have the authoritarian tyrant and the wise king. So JBP says, the authoritarian tyrant is the lack of appreciation for the often fragile structures that bind us together and protect us from the chaos that would otherwise certainly reign. And then, wise king being on the other side of that spectrum is having the wisdom to know when to change and having the wisdom to know when to be conservative or not change, keep the same structure. And I almost think this comes back to the first chapter we read, right?
Yeah.
Which is like the balance between conservatism versus the
Liberal.
change, right? Liberalism or whatever it might be, but
Whatever you
the
want
person that wants to change the pyramid of how we've done things, the structure, versus the people that want to keep it the way it is. So this one was kind of a little tougher for me to understand. Is there anything you guys really got from that subsection that you'd be willing to share?
I'm trying to see because I didn't really take too many notes because I understood it reading it, but trying to paraphrase it was really hard.
Let's see.
Culture.
Just to kind of tie it into modern day times, you talked about wise king, conservatism,
Yeah.
Being very liberal. It's just that even in today's age, if you have someone that can hear and agree with both sides of the political party, they're probably a more balanced individual,
Yeah.
and because they're open to change, but they know when to be conservative with certain things that need to hold true to keep the boat moving.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's how
What qualities do you think would kind of be representative of the wise king?
the wise king, for example, Ace, stop. Money never changes. Being fiscally responsible
Okay.
is a good trait, right?
Yeah, I agree.
That's never gonna go out of style.
Yeah.
And being liberal, maybe things change, culture changes, rules change,
Knowing when to change that.
For example, 50 years ago, it was illegal to be gay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's I don't think it's a big deal,
Right.
but that doesn't mean I still don't agree with conservatives when it comes to our fiscal policy for our country,
Yeah. So
but
it's being open to change and knowing when to do it.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
I think it's hard to identify the knowing when, the quote unquote knowing when to do something, especially something of that nature. When it's so a large, the idea has been floating around for such a long time. it's hard, at least how I see society, or like I see it as a cloud that's sort of like everybody knows it exists. Everybody knows that this thing is there, but the idea of it being implemented is like, how do we know this is the right time? I don't know. Start now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Because that goes back to the omission thing. There's a bunch of people who stood up against a tyrant to like change our culture socially.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
And so I think the right moment is like now. You know what I mean? Like whenever. It depends the situation. Actually, I take that back, because like if we're talking about an empire that's ran by a tyrannical king, then yeah, it's amongst the people to recognize what's going on, and when's the line drawn and be like, okay, he's done this or she's done this, and it's too far. We need to revolt now.
Culturally,
like, it's changed. Yeah. It's changing now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's just a hard identifier to put a hard line on. Like, no win.
Yeah, that's a good point. Knowing the win. Yeah. JBP says on page 332, conservatives are necessary for maintaining things the way they are when everything is working, and change might be dangerous. Liberals, by contrast, are necessary for changing things when they are no longer working. It is no easy task, however, to determine when something needs to be preserved or when it needs to be transformed. That is why we have politics, if we are fortunate, and the dialogue that accompanies it, instead of war, tyranny, or submission. It is necessary to argue and it is necessary for us to argue passionately about the relative value of stability versus change, so that we can determine when each is appropriate and in what doses. So it's all about having the tough conversation to figure out when.
I don't know, like, go ahead, John.
That's the thing that I think we're missing in today's society.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Yeah,
I was gonna say the same thing.
That's where my mind went. I was like, dialogue. Where's that?
Oh no, I feel like we're missing that, bro. Like,
there's no good discourse. It's just like we talk about it. We talk about how much we disagree on things. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, we never meet in the middle on things.
We never even like accusation right away.
There's no
it's accusation
establishing
right away,
common ground.
You don't like what I have to say, you're this phobic, fill in the blank. You know?
I think a big part of it has to deal with not being able to articulate your ideas and thoughts. I think that has to do with like a majority, because when our leaders, like our what are they, Senate or politicians, whatever, like state, whatever, federal, whoever's discussing a topic, we can refer back to the videos and the audio of them talking about it. But when it comes to like an event, a speaker, like someone
I disagree, but there's like levels to that though. You know, like if you're an intellectual person, your friends will probably can hold a conversation. They can probably articulate themselves, but they don't. Yeah. You know? Yeah. There's like people who are like academics.
I think it's meet
in the middle and have a conversation.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like a lot of academic intellectual thinkers. I think when it comes to like the bias of like opinion is where it gets like like emotion stuff, like where the opposite side of that person thinking or their idea, like trying to articulate it, they've thought of this idea for so long, or been surrounded by these people for so long, that it's hard to hear the opposite side of the table. And it turns into like, no, you're not right. You're just not right. Like, I don't care what you're saying. It's like, where is that going to get us?
Yeah, either all these big political issues, or they all kind of come down. They're all their own issues, you know, and everybody falls on different sides of it because they believe that's what's right. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So those people having a discussion, you're trying to see the other person's point of view, but you've firmly believed for so long that this is correct. So you have to be open to that being incorrect. Yeah. And some things it's just going to be impossible to do, right? Like some people, just let's choose one of delete his fetus. Some people believe it's right to do it. Some people don't, but having the conversation doesn't happen.
What is it? Right? What is it? Delete a fetus?
Delete his fetus.
Abortion.
Yeah. Oh, you said.
Oh man, I was waiting for that.
That'll get flagged, you know. But hey, like if we're talking abortion, some people believe this is right. Some people believe this is right, and like. To have the discourse, you can just see what that looks like. Yeah. It just looks like you're wrong. It's like, well, let's have the discussion, you know? And I'll be willing to be wrong, but you can't because this is how you believe. We're
Yeah,
not
I think-
arguing logic. We're arguing belief. You know.
That's. I think
We're
that's
arguing
like
emotions.
Yeah.
that topic is like so black. It's black or white. It's not like there's no gray.
I don't know. I disagree with that too. I think there's a lot of
Rainbows,
gray.
bro. There's rainbows. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's rainbows.
I don't know. That's how like. Why do you disagree, John? Like I kind of want to hear. Like what?
Because I would say I'm pretty gray on it. Like, if you would ask me morally, like, do I believe in it? I would say no. But do I think the government should like legislate what we can or can't do? Absolutely not.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
we
I-
should like
Same.
I should be told I can't like marry anybody. I shouldn't be told I can't get a boyfriend I don't want to. I shouldn't be told I have to take a vaccine. Like, that's not the government's place. So like
Ooh, this-
like legally, I disagree.
Yeah.
But like, morally,
No,
Cut that. I'm
no,
just kidding.
keep
I'm
it.
just
No, no,
kidding.
no, I
you don't,
stand-
you don't like
I
it, then you're not the right person.
No,
I'm
I
just kidding,
stand.
I'm
I
just
stand.
kidding.
I stand. Because I believe. I believe what John's like. That's
Be
where I
willing to hear
stand.
it.
I believe there is gray area, but I don't. I'm not the one making the decisions. The people that make the decisions see it as black or white. It's like the people that in Texas or wherever it's illegal see it as black or white.
I think maybe they have a gray area, like they've sat through and thought, but at the end of the day, they still have to make a decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's like what you stand on. Hey, I can be as understanding as I can and hear everything, but you can't just
But
not
how
make
do
a
you?
decision at the
I
end of the
can't.
day.
I don't understand that like argument though, because like realistically, when it's pushed into like the government making choices for you, that's where I'm like, that needs to chill. Because it's like, what's the next thing the government's gonna make a decision for?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's
it's
why
just
we're talking about it, and it's important to have dialogue, or else,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Have
He's
the
talking about
dialogue,
it right
yeah.
now.
in a free market, if there's a market for people who want it, and there's the people who want to invest in technology to make that happen, and they have customers, I mean, like, you know,
Yeah, make it happen.
Ball out,
Definitely.
stomps to the moon.
We fucking ran off.
Yeah.
ran off the
Yeah, yeah.
rails.
So the next subsection is called the individual, and he puts it down as hero versus adversary, both sides of the spectrum. Okay, so he defines a hero as the person who can sacrifice properly to nature and strike a bargain with fate, such that benevolence reigns. The person who is awake, alert, attentive, communicative, and bears responsibility, so that the tyrannical part of the state remains at bay. And the person who is aware of his or her own faults and proclivity for malevolence and deceit, so that proper orientation is maintained. And he defines adversary as everything despicable and contemptible. So real quick, I want to talk about the definition of the hero he has here. So he says the person who can sacrifice properly to nature and strike a bargain with fate, such that benevolence reigns. What do you guys think about that quote? Is there anything?
so the first thing I think about is like my relationship with me physically, like with the gym and like my physical health.
Okay.
Like, I've reasoned with nature. I've struck a bargain, and like the bargain is if I go to the gym every fucking day for an hour and a half to 2 hours, I'll get what I want, right?
Yeah.
To look good. Like, I reasoned with
Yeah,
fate.
to look
I
good,
struck
uh-huh.
a bargain, and like that's a real deal, you know.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
And like I think of that as like that's like what a hero does. He like sees his pride, and he's like, what do I got to do to actually make it happen?
Right.
Like, life breaks it down like pragmatically, and you're like, okay, I'll start here. If
Yeah.
I can end there, I'll start here. You're right.
Right. That's a good one. That's really good.
Yeah.
All right. How about the next one? It says the person who is awake, alert, attentive, communicative, and bears responsibility.
I thought immediately to Sleeping Beauty, someone who's asleep can't really do anything about it. Person who's awake, I mean, they get stuff done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
Awake, not woke.
Well,
awake. Yes.
I
Yeah,
think
awake.
I think you're consciously making. When I hear that, like that sentence, you're consciously making a choice to be the best version of you
Yeah.
forever.
Bearing.
You know what I mean? Like you're very alert to where your conscious is directing your focus.
And of all those, I think the bearing responsibility is maybe higher on the totem pole
that's
for them.
huge, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. The communicative, like you were saying.
Yeah.
This is. In order to be the hero, you have to know how to slay the dragon of communication skills. So, even you just recognizing that, you know. So that's pretty cool. All right, and then it says the person who is aware of his or her own faults and proclivity for malevolence and deceit.
So someone
That makes
who
it
can
wrongs.
wait, what'd you say?
So the person who is aware of his or her own
Oh,
faults
yeah.
and their proclivity for malevolence and deceit.
Like I was saying, like the people that read this, and there's some people that are like, I don't know if this relates to me. I can never be resentful, but understanding your own tendencies to where you can be deceitful or arrogant or resentful to yourself, maybe.
Okay.
You know, knowing your line and knowing your tendencies is almost bearing responsibility to like your own self and others, because you know how you are and it's your job to like work on that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if they're aware of their own faults and their proclivity, meaning I can do bad, right, and be deceitful. Malevolence, I can do bad. I do things with a bad intention, is what that means.
Yeah,
I understand that you're capable.
Yeah,
of that.
I just think like if you're capable of recognizing it within you, you also have to be capable that like there's at least 100,000 more people that think and act just like you.
Oh yeah.
So it compounds. There's
It's
there's
like
people that can be like,
you're not new to this world. You know, we're not new. We're not like something that's innovative for the past like 100 years. Like humans have been around for like a good amount of time, not the whole fucking, you know what I mean? But
I disagree, dog. I'm one of a kind.
but it's like I think that's just running off faith, though. You know what I mean?
That's a good point though. Like, there's a lot of people that like, I know John just used himself as an example, but it's like there is people that aren't like that and who are working on themselves, and they do almost the opposite of these things, or like this hero, for example. There's a lot of heroes out there, people that are taking on that role, you know.
Did you guys ever play the Star Wars Revenge of the Sith games?
No.
Yeah.
Or the Sith. So you remember how you had the choice to either go dark or go light? I think that's what this is. Like, understand that when you reach a point, it's like, okay, I need to choose a new mission. Do I choose blue or do I choose red? Right? You're capable of choosing the bad option, right? And if it's something really enticing, understand in yourself that you're capable of choosing that.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, that just reminded me at the very end of The Place You Should Be, the subsection.
Okay.
A part that's really good is like it talks about, you know, what you can do, and he's like, perhaps you could live in a manner whose nobility, grandeur, and intrinsic meaning would be of sufficient import that you could tolerate and negate elements of it. Wait, is this what I wanted to read? Never mind. Cut all that.
Cut that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
Let's see here. All right. Other than that, I think we've covered all the characters. We've talked about what arrogance and deceitfulness are. Was there anything else from this chapter that really stood out to you guys?
I would just like to say, you know, in the beginning of the chapter, we didn't go over it too much, but JBP is giving an example of one of his clients who comes in, who she was overprotected, right? You said she had the
He compared her to Sleeping Beauty, like she didn't have the evil queen invited into her life.
There was a lot of gold to be found in confronting the things that I guess she needed to confront, and that she basically made a lot of improvement, right? Like a lot of basically recovery. Yeah, exposure therapy.
Yeah.
So I'll just recommend whoever's watching or listening, you know, take that into consideration. We all have our own dragons of chaos and characters in our own life, you know, so it might do us some good to get out there and see where maybe you could improve by just simply exposing yourself.
Yeah, I think that it should be exposure lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right? It should be a lifestyle of exposure. Go find things that make you uncomfortable. If you like going to the gym, then up it a little bit, more weight next week, and then maybe the next week. You know,
it's interesting.
Go and find the exposure. Go get it.
Yeah, and then looking at her situation, she went to the...
John's got something.
Oh, so go ahead. Get it, John.
Let something go, dude.
Like, if you're scared to go get pussy, dog, yourself in some books, pussy exposure. Just get after it.
And it's funny. Lifestyle, right? It's like for me, I'm thinking about rock climbing.
Okay.
Scary as shit for me still. But I think when I got to the gym, went up to it, put the harness on, was like around people, and was just exposed in that vicinity or that environment, it lessened how scary it was. So I went up to the wall, I started touching, I was like, okay, maybe I can go a little bit higher and grab it and stuff. So I think exposure kind of opens up the door for you to even just be in the same area with something that's bothering you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I remember you on the wall, dude. You was like Elvis Presley. He was like, his leg was shaking.
Dude, this shit's scary, dog.
yeah, but even to just get up there, Devin and my girlfriend are like super scared of heights, and they even just go and get on the wall is like that's huge, dude. Even like 6 feet off the ground, you know, it's like holy crap.
See, yeah,
you know, so big exposure lifestyle. Take that, tattoo it on your face, send it in. All the information you need to be down in the description below. Put it in the comments. Actually, I want to see that.
Yeah,
do the tattoo.
All right. Anything else you guys want to mention before I take us out?
Nope. Good is not always good. Sometimes it's portrayed as evil. So don't let evil just be some monster. Yeah.
And it's Devin's birthday. Happy 27. Oh, he turned 27. He did it. Yeah. He made it.
Where's my cupcakes? No.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Paradyme Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. We enjoyed the chapter. We hope you go pick up the book, right? Like, go support JBP. We like the guy, okay? All right, so we hope you have a great week going into... Man, I am just fucking this thing up, bro. Whatever. All right. Yeah, so before you take off, remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop the comment. And, what do you think of this chapter? Leave that down in the comment box below. And follow us on all our social media platforms. All the information will be in the description box below. So before you take off, remember the life you live today equals who you'll be tomorrow. Peace.
Tomorrow. I got a basketball game tomorrow.